I think my eyes have gotten worse since last I saw you. I was like, my face has gotten fatter. I don't stare at myself on a monitor when I'm not doing this. Hi, everybody. Hey, there's John McKee with a roll call. Already, John McKee? Already, John McKee. There's Matthew, there's Brian, there's John. That would be John of John McKee fame. Donna, Frank, Hank, Rob, Roger, Dow, Bill, Chuck, Webb, and other Bill. Good to see you all here. Here we go, says Matthew. Well, I guess we're going then. It's I start off Shakespearean, and I didn't even mean to. It was an accident. Hey, Ken shaved his head. That's funny, Frank. Not in the past couple of days. All right, here we go. In 3. What? Huh? I'm gonna need my glasses, which I hate. I don't need them yet. What's it been, like a month since we did this? Gee whiz, I've forgotten how to do everything. All right. I come not to praise HomePod, but to bury it. It is Monday, the 15th of March, 2021, and this is macOS Can Live. I wrote that line not even thinking about the fact that it's the Ides of March. It's the Ides of March. Remember, Caesar was going to the Senate, and they said, "Oh, beware the Jabberwocky." I might have mixed a couple of things up there. Hi, I'm Ken Ray, welcoming you into another edition of macOS Can Live. Took a week off, and now I'm back doing this. One thing today, I think, second part of the show might be a second part of the show thing. We might talk about AirPods as the second part of the show, or we might just roll straight into it. Of course, the big thing today, and it's not really a big thing, but it's an interesting thing. I couldn't actually decide when I was putting together macOS Ken for Monday's show, whether I should lead off with the stuff about the stocks, because that tends to be how I lead off macOS Ken, or lead off with HomePod. Now, if they were killing an entire line of a product, there'd be no question. You lead off with HomePod. I ended up leading off with HomePod anyway, because that device now is going away. There's still going to be a HomePod Mini. Probably you already know this. If you are tuning into any kind of tech anything, you've probably already heard that Apple has killed the HomePod. But just in case you haven't, Apple has killed the HomePod. The originally $349 smart speaker that was not nearly smart enough for a lot of people. It's now only $299, except no, wait a minute, now it's just gone. It might still be available at some third-party resellers. Apple may still have some of the white ones. I actually should have checked before the show started. I did not. The space gray were gone over the weekend. The white ones were getting harder to get. I want to say when I was actually writing the story originally, I went to the Best Buy site and you can get them both. And then right before I went to record Monday's macOS Can, I checked the Best Buy site one more time, and they were down to just the white ones as well. Target showed them as sold out. B&H Photo said that they were getting some in the next few weeks, but my guess is if I went back and checked that today, because I forgot to check that as well, that they're also probably not getting any more unless there is one more order that's stuck on a boat someplace on its way to them. So HomePod is no more, which is not to say your HomePod's not going to keep working. If you already have one, I've seen a few different things. Jeff Gamet and I are going to be talking on tomorrow's edition of In a Few Minutes about HomePod. He sort of seems to think that Apple is going to start developing stuff for HomePod Mini that HomePod is not going to be able to handle. Now, I read an article from someplace, Apple Insider or someplace, that said, calm down, don't worry, your HomePod's not going to turn into a paperweight. And yet what I found myself thinking about was when Apple came out with the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10, I didn't see the point in the iPhone 10. I got the iPhone 8 because it would do things like, well, it did everything I wanted it to do, except it didn't have the LiDAR. And what did I care about the LiDAR? Except after Apple introduced the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10, Suddenly, Apple and its own apps started producing things that use the LiDAR that was only in the iPhone 10. I'm thinking about things like an emoji, which of course was the little thing where you could hold up, your face and your face would talk like a, I don't know, dinosaur or a skull or whatever. I've got a phone now that does it. I don't use it anymore. And yet I really felt like I had lost something when I didn't have that. Apple was doing the background for clips that had to do specifically with the LiDAR, right? I think you could only get the like I could only be like the Emperor or like one of those, projection things from Star Wars with all the Star Wars stuff in the background if you had the iPhone 10 or later, which is now fine for the iPhone 11 and iPhone 12 and all that stuff too. There may be stuff built into HomePod Mini that the HomePod's not going to do. There actually already is. That haptic feedback thing that came in iOS 14.4, I believe it was, and HomePod 14.4, where as you get close to it, your phone starts vibrating and you can tap a thing to have it send it over to the HomePod with just a push of a thing on the screen for the HomePod Mini, that is. Like if I approach my HomePod with something playing on my phone doesn't care. You actually have to walk over and either, either in the phone, you have to AirPlay it to it or you have to tap it and it'll transfer. Whereas with the latest version of HomePod Mini and the operating system, as you get closer, your phone and your HomePod sort of sense each other, and they do this handshake from across the room or within a few feet of each other, where you can just tap and it goes. Point being, HomePod is already not as functional as HomePod Mini in some respects, so it's not going to become a paperweight. But we're done with new features for HomePod for all intents and purposes. I can't imagine them introducing any other new features going forward. So, okay, all of that aside, I'm kind of curious why it happened. I've been trying to figure out. I mean, there are a number of things. Like, I wish we knew what Apple had expected from HomePod originally. When Steve Jobs introduced iPod Hi Fi, and I'm wondering if we're going to end up with sort of like iPod Hi Fi 2, right? Because I know people who had iPod Hi Fi who thought iPod Hi Fi was great. They absolutely loved that device. When Steve Jobs introduced it, he said that he thought that it was going to be the way that everybody was going to be listening to their iPods within a couple of years. And I thought, not the only time, but one of the only times that Steve Jobs was crazy, because either people wanted to listen to their iPods with headphones or they already had some sort of something or other that would let them do that. I was running a mini to mini cable to my stereo. When I bought my stereo, I bought it specifically so I could get other audio inputs into it. If that was a problem that I wanted solved, I was going to have already solved it. Anybody who wanted to be able to play their iPod to speakers wasn't waiting around for Apple to come up with a solution for that. And so when he said, this is how everybody's going to be listening to their iPod, I thought, that's marketing speak at best, or delusional. It seems unlikely that Apple thought that everybody was going to get a HomePod. What I wish we knew is, what did Apple think was going to happen with HomePod? Is it a failure now because they've decided to kill it? One of the things, again, that I'll talk about on Tomorrow's in a few minutes with Jeff Gamet. I don't think the whole point of HomePod was to soften the ground for HomePod Mini, but certainly HomePod does soften the ground for HomePod Mini. I shouldn't say all this because then you're not going to listen to Tomorrow's in a few minutes, but whatever. Because HomePod came out and it was $350, and a lot of people thought, well, if I want that, I would get. I can't remember what the one is that everybody already has, not Bose. Oh, come on. It doesn't matter. There's a smart speaker out there that a Sonos. People thought, if I was going to spend that much money, wouldn't I spend just a little bit more and get the Sonos? There were other people that thought, well, that's far too expensive because I could get, what, 8, 12, 14 Echo Dots for the same price? Who was this for? If it wasn't for everyone, was it just for people with refined audio tastes? Or was it just for people who like the Apple stuff? I have one. I love my HomePod, but I got mine at half price because I knew somebody who worked at Apple and they were being offered to Apple employees at half price. I never would have gotten one for $300 just because there are other things I need more than $300. To be honest, there are other things probably that I needed more than $150, except I felt like to be able to talk about the whole HomePod ecosystem because this was pre-HomePod Mini. I thought for that amount of money, okay, I really should do it. If I'm clever, I could actually write it off now that I think about it. That feels a bit hinky. I don't know. Does this say anything about the AirPods Max Pro? That was another thing I found myself wondering about because it's just a weird thing. I don't know. I don't know how to place it in my head as far as Apple products are concerned. AirPods Pro Max seem like a crazy device to me. How much are they? Like $550 for headphones? When they sell Beats for $250 to $350 headphones, that seems really high to a lot of people. And I don't mean they're high for trying to offer that. I mean, that seems really pricey. And so then Apple comes out with something that's $200 more than Beats headphones. I know they're supposed to sound great. I know there's a lot of stuff that's supposed to be wonderful about them. You can't sell a smart speaker for 300, but you can sell the HomePods, AirPods Max Pro, whatever the freak they're called, for 550. I also found myself wondering earlier this weekend when they said that the HomePod was going away. Are the first AirPods Pro Max priced ridiculously high so that the AirPods Pro Max 2 can come out $200 less? Let's make those $350 or even $400. Or the first one priced at 550 or 529 so that when the second ones come out for only $350 to $400, we say, "Oh, well, now you're talking." Right? Because right now the price is insane. You knock off $120 on it, the price is still insane, but we don't say, you know, I can get 4 of these things for that. We say, "Wow, it used to be $520, now it's only 400. What a bargain. I'll take 2." None of that really speaks to the whole HomePod thing, except that I'm just trying to figure out, what the place is for that. Was HomePod simply too late? That's another question, I suppose. Because if there's room for a stainless steel Apple Watch that's 2 or $300 more than the aluminum Apple Watch, if there's room for $550 headphones where there's already $250 to $300 headphones, if you've got room for the AirPods Pro and the AirPods, how do you not have room for the HomePod? Because here's what I'll say. It sounds a lot better than the HomePod Mini. HomePod Mini sounds great. HomePod Mini sounds especially great if you haven't heard the HomePod. I don't understand how it went away, but it's going away. Never in our time to return. I'm not here to praise it, by the way. I'm here to put it 6 feet under. Let's go ahead and talk really quickly about because I don't have anything to ask you to do here. I don't know. Go listen to it in a few minutes. See if I left anything out there. Short commercial break today. Let's talk really quickly about the AirPods because Ming-Chi Kuo says happy fun time for AirPods is over. This is it. They've grown and grown and grown, and now they're done growing, is what he says. He's cut his forecast by 30 to 35% for 2021. The rest of Wall Street's looking for them to grow still, looking specifically for AirPods to grow. He's not saying the hearable market, which I hate that term, but he's not saying the hearable market has stopped growing. He's saying that AirPods have stopped growing. According to this report that I saw in Cult of Mac, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, I lost it. No, here it is. Okay. So the first year, Ming-Chi Kuo thinks Apple sold about 15 million pairs of HomePods. Then the second year, 2018, 35 million. 2019, 60 million. Last year, Ming-Chi Kuo thinks 90 million pairs of AirPods were sold. Now, he doesn't think they're done with the category. In fact, he's got some thoughts on the next generation of AirPods, which he says comes out this fall. I don't really care. I mean, it's not that I don't care about the device, but we're far too far out. Plus, all the stuff that he's saying about them, basically, it almost feels like he's just trying to plant a flag and saying there's going to be something coming out. He's not sure if it's going to replace what's out there now. He's not sure if it's going to be an addition to. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. So we can skip all that. He's not saying that they're abandoning AirPods, obviously, because that would be insane. The product's not dead. The category is not dead. In fact, I think it was Cult of Mac who said the whole category is going to continue to grow because Apple has basically done what happened with with the iPhone. They've done what they did with all kinds of devices, smart speakers not included. They came out with something that's way expensive and sort of aspirational for some people, and other categories looked at it and said, or other companies rather looked at it, and then they did the strokey beard thing and said, yeah, we can do that. We can do it for less. And so they come out and they don't end up beating Apple, but they do end up sort of like taking some of the ground out from under them. Nobody gains like market share over Apple, but Apple stops growing the category at that point. Oh, well, here's the quote actually. Other manufacturers create rival products that grab market share, but fail to slow Apple's sales momentum. After a while, as markets become more saturated and third party products get better, Apple's gains stall, is what they say. In the meantime, IDC came out with new numbers about wearables. And I'm kind of like, so on the one hand, I hate the term hearables. On the other hand, I hate that they put Apple Watches and AirPods Pro and AirPods Pro Max all in the same category. But they do. Apple devices accounted for 36% of total wearable industry shipments for the fourth quarter of last year. IDC thinks that Apple shipped 55.6 million wearable devices in the fourth quarter. That was up from 43.7 million in the fourth quarter of 2019. But we're talking about a bunch of different things there, or some different things anyway. It's interesting because this piece says that includes AirPods, AirPods Pro, and AirPods Pro Max. When you're talking about hearables, they don't list Beats, but Beats should definitely be in there, I think. It's kind of interesting because that same Cult of Mac piece that I was talking about a moment ago, Apple Watch is the only wearable that's not yet fallen to the kind of things that we were talking about with the EarPods or the AirPods, excuse me. Yes, other companies are coming out with smartwatches. Yes, other companies are selling some smartwatches, but Apple Watch is still running away with it full bore. Kind of curious as to why. Other interesting thing about this, and it kind of goes to what the Cult of Mac piece had said, IDC says that hearables slowed in the fourth quarter. They weren't down, but their growth slowed. Shipments were up 22% from the fourth quarter of 2019, though that level of growth was down versus the same quarter a year earlier. And also going to what Cult of Mac said about how other companies sort of get into it, but don't, end up running it. What did I say Apple had? According to IDC, Apple accounted for 36% of the total wearables industry last quarter. Xiaomi was second with 8.8%. Samsung was third with 8.5%. They both sold more devices, but they both managed to lose market share in the wearable space. Some of that I assume to Apple, some of that to even smaller players coming in and not eating their lunch, but taking the crumbs from the lunch that they tried to eat from Apple. Curious about the HomePod thing for you. Do you have one? Are you sad that they're getting rid of it? Did you rush out and try to find one once you found out you could never get one? Curious what your thoughts are on HomePod. Couple ways to let me know. You can leave a comment right here on this video. You can also send me an email, info@macoscan.com, info, info@macoscan.com. Yeah, we're back into stuff right now. So we've got in a few minutes tomorrow. Oh, interesting. I forgot to tell you. Jeff Gamet and I are talking about HomePod tomorrow on in a few minutes. So you don't want to miss more of that. Of course, we got macOS 10 going again tomorrow morning and macOS 10 live again tomorrow afternoon. And I'll talk to you soon. I left out the part about how much Echo Dots cost. Next to nothing. Oh, there's so much other stuff we could have talked about too, like privacy and security and all that, but I just didn't really think about it. Because it doesn't matter, because they're getting rid of it. They're getting out of that one thing. Right? Hold on. I've got my coffee. I've got my glasses. I got you. What are we doing? Hey, there's Web Bixby. There's Paul. The Ides of Texas are upon you. Oh, the live long day. I'm pretty sure I got that intentionally wrong. Wow. I'm not going to answer that, though. I will say I'm not having a Caesar salad. But I started off my show with a Mark Anthony. Is it Mark Anthony? It's not Mark Anthony. Who is it? It might be. Hello, Eugene. Yeah, daylight saving time sucks. I hate it. Frank says iMac Pro is gone, HomePod is gone, everything happens in threes. What disappears next? Interesting question, Frank. John McKee did not have a Caesar salad today, but he had pie yesterday because, pie. Oh, interesting. Bill says maybe the iPod Touch. That's interesting. Frank says maybe they were shooting for the Sonos market. Darn it, there was actually a note in there that I forgot about. That was one of the complaints that Jeff Gamet had. If you wanted it for something like a home theater system, it didn't work well out of the box. It may have eventually. I honestly don't know. But he said that every time he tried to use his HomePod as a speaker for his Apple TV, he had to go in and choose it every time. I don't know that enough people were trying to do that, though, that noise would have gotten out before people went and spent the money on it, would it? Chuck says, let's not forget that HomePod was a version 1 product, not the first time that a second generation product has had more features than a first generation. See, I would argue, though, that they're not first and second generation products. HomePod Mini definitely builds on what they had done with HomePod, but they're different devices. Based solely on sound. So for maybe for the average user or the average buyer who doesn't have both, they don't know that. I would argue that they're different things. They even their physicality is different. I tried having the HomePod Mini down in the kitchen and having the HomePod in the bedroom. And they ended up working better the other way because in the kitchen, people just stack stuff up in front of the HomePod Mini. The HomePod's big enough that it sort of serves in a way as a reminder to people that's a thing that's down there. And that's weird because getting the HomePod Mini and putting it in one room, putting the HomePod downstairs, I found now that I'm using both of them more than I ever used the HomePod by itself. But then again, I was the only one using the HomePod, so that could be it. Brian asked, didn't the Apple Store recently stop selling the Sonos? I don't remember. Probably somebody in the chat room answered that question for you already, though. Dow says he still can't believe he could have bought two minis for less than one HomePod. Yeah, well, you still can. You can actually buy, think about it, you can actually buy three minis for the same price of one HomePod. And yet, what are the numbers? I actually copied down the numbers for the Echo Dot, which I don't care about because of the privacy thing. Currently, the Echo Dot is $34.99, and the Echo is $80, $79.99. So yeah, you can still get lots of cheaper stuff, less expensive, I should say. Bill says $550 for the AirPods Max. AirPods Pro Max is out of touch for the general consumer. Yes, it is. But you remember that article I did on Friday's Mac OS Ken, where the guy from not Bang& Olufsen, Master and Dynamic, said that if Apple had priced the AirPods Pro Max at $400, he'd be worried about his business. All right. I'm sure Apple didn't hear that, so it'll be fine. That's going to happen at some point, isn't it? They're going to have to not have to lower the price, but they're going to lower the price on those, right? Same as they did with what was the first iPhone, like $599 or $699, and then even before you got the subsidy from AT&T to bring it down to $200, Apple lowered the price. I want to say to $400. So they had people spending, and I was among them, gobs of money for the first iPhone. And then 3 months later, I believe, 2.5, 3 months later, they lowered the price by between $200 and $300. I could see the AirPods Pro Max coming down. And then because yes, then in my head, and I know that $400 is a stupid amount of money, but I also know that, it used to be $520, now it's $400. Something in my head says, ooh, that's a bargain. No, it's not. But I would imagine I'm not the only person that happens to. Roger says, when I want to listen to audiophile level music, I use a component stereo and CDs or records. Yeah, but then there's all the extra stuff like the noise cancellation and the virtual assistant. I get what you're saying and you're not wrong, but I mean it adds more stuff in as well, right? AirPods Pro. Woof woof. See, that's another thing that I had in my notes that I forgot to talk about. Bill says my Apple Watch of old is fine. My batteries on my AirPods are dead. I can't believe you don't already have another pair of AirPods, because that's what happens. My special lady friend used to use them because her previous job, they were on meetings all day long, and she had a pair of AirPods that she used for those meetings. And like my first pair of AirPods now that I've had for golly, man, I don't even know, like 3 years, 4 years. I'm not sure. They're still fine because I don't use them for extended periods of time. If I use them for a couple of hours, 3, they start giving me the, hey, we're winding down now thing. When I eventually replace them, I'll replace them with another pair of AirPods. When hers started to go dead because she was constantly on them, I want to say hers lasted maybe a year and a half. Another pair immediately because there's, I mean, once you start using them and once um, you, you know what I'm failing to say right now. I did not. Matthew wanted to know if I saw his comment about asking if Apple has a land of misfit toys for all the failed products. No, but if they do, they'll turn up on eBay in about 7 years. Oh, Rob uses his HomePod pair in the bedroom with his Apple TV. Recently used it as the default, or set it as the default output. Works very well now. Yeah, I found myself after all this talk because I'm not going to go out and try to, first of all, I could only get a white HomePod, and then having a pair of black and white HomePods. Plus, there's still the price. But I did find myself thinking about getting a second HomePod Mini to try to pair it for the TV because nerd. Hey, things skip, so I missed the end of the stuff that we were talking about in the show. There we go. All right, hold on. Yeah, I hate that idea too, Bill, but you're probably right. Bill says, wait till the glasses come out and we have viewables. Yeah, we could eat our Lunchables with our Heroables and our viewables. It'd be great. Jeff and I actually talk about the AR VR thing as far as the viewables later this week. It's a fun conversation. I'm looking forward to guys and gals hearing that. Seeables, sure. I don't know why I said it that way. No, yeah. John says I have an original HomePod. It's fine. I don't care that it's no longer being sold. They are sold rather. They aren't coming for mine. There's something about like as soon as they're done. I think I might have mentioned this here before. I can't remember. The only iPods I ever had were the big iPods. I got the third generation, so it didn't have the actual physical turning wheel. It had the click wheel and the blue screen. And then I got the first video iPod as well. And those are the only iPods I ever had. And every now and then I'm like, I wish I'd had a mini or I wish I'd had a nano. Never wanted a shuffle. Don't care about that. But like, the little matchbook one or the, stick of gum, not the stick of gum because that's the shuffle. And every now and then I think, oh man, I wish I had gotten one of those because that'd be cool. And then I go onto eBay and they have a million of them. And so I don't buy any because it's like, oh, well, I can still get it. So I don't care anymore. There's something about the when they stop selling it thing that makes me think, oh, loss. Even though they don't care, they stop selling it. Nerd. Again, nerd. Not calling you a nerd, calling myself one. It is Mark Anthony. Okay, good. Not Mark Anthony. That's different. Why does that surprise you, Paul? Paul says what's surprising to him is that Apple is actually being upfront about dropping products before removing them from the Apple Store. Yeah, it's kind of curious. Nobody wants a Google Home Mini. Sorry, the thing skipped there. I assume some people do. Bill says if you want a Google Home Mini, you can get that for almost $0 every couple of months. Google offers me another free one. No, Paul says, I don't think Apple would have an issue to just let it go out of stock or just move them to the refurbished store. They could easily sell them. That's interesting. Hmm. Paul says, I've been living in the Apple ecosystem too long. Do you mean because of the price thing? Because I think you're probably right. See, that's the thing. It's never enough. It's never low enough that I think, oh, well, I'm going to go ahead and spend the money now because it costs that much less. It's just, I'm fairly certain I can't be the only person that that trick works on. I don't know. Oh, thanks. Paul also says, I have a pair of AirPods from 3 years ago and I haven't lost them. Good going. Thanks. Although you may have just jinxed me. I guess we'll find out in the next few weeks. I haven't swallowed one, so that's good. Who does that? Did you see? Is it Bose is selling like AirPods or earbuds that you sleep in? I just saw the review for the second generation of those, and apparently they suck. Sorry, that's what the review said. And they cost $250. Here's the thing. I like to not be disturbed when I sleep, but I also like to be able to hear little things like fire alarms, right? The wind kept me awake last night because it got very windy or rainy or whatever. And so, yeah, I guess it would be better to be able to sleep through that. At the same time, I don't know. But if I had a lot of trouble sleeping, I guess I would worry about it. All right. We have reached the end of we've reached the bottom of the talk there, and I got to go turn this around, and then I have a show to write for tomorrow. It's wonderful to see everybody, and yeah, let's do this again in 24 hours or so. 23 hours and change. Take care. I will talk to you soon.